Welcome to our exclusive series, Creating Web Pages with HTML. This is episode 5, Hyperlinks and Graphics. As you already know from browsing the internet, web pages can link to other pages of related information to enhance the value of the web as a whole. Web pages also have graphical images that complement text to further convey the message. We're going to learn how to create both of these essential inline elements today. Let's start with hyperlinks. Hyperlinks, or links for short, are for the most part those underlined words you see on pages that take you somewhere else when you click on them. Sometimes links are not underlined, and sometimes graphics can act as links, but we'll get to those specifics later. Regardless, I'm sure you understand the basic functionality of links. You click and you go somewhere else. Where you were and where you go is reflected in the location bar of your browser. Let's start our understanding of links by describing this information first. This is the address for Google's website. The address is broken down into several parts. First is the scheme, the http:// part. Don't worry about this buzzword. Just know that 99% of the time, addresses of web pages you want to visit will have the http:// as the first part of the address. Just memorize this. Next comes the actual address of the website, which is the name of the server where all of the web pages reside. Finally comes the path and the file name of the file itself. In this instance, you don't see any file name, but you do see a / at the end. When you see addresses like this, just know that the browser is smart enough to automatically bring up the default page from the root directory of the site. For now, just know that this is the address of the website, and addresses can be in one of two formats: absolute addresses and relative addresses. This is an example of an absolute address, and we're going to create one of these first. To create any link, we need to use the anchor or the A tag. Let's do so now. This is the format of the anchor tag. This tag has an opening and a closing tag. What's between the tags will become the underlined hyperlink. This inline tag gets its functionality from its attributes, like the acronym tag. In this case, the attribute I want to teach you is the href or the href attribute, which stands for hyperlink reference. In other words, where do you want this link to go? The value of the href attribute goes inside the quotes, which are after the equal sign. We are going to type an absolute link to Google's page by typing in the entire path to its location. Open up your template.html file from inside your HTML folder. Highlight the text, place content here, and type Google. Type the opening and closing A tags around Google. Click after the A of the opening A tag, hit the spacebar, and type href equals quote http:// www.google.com/ end of quote. Choose File Save As to save this file as links.html. Open up a second browser, open this file into it, and test your link. It should take you to google.com. Hit the browser's back button and come back to your file. When you are done, come back and continue. Hit pause now and complete the steps. Voila! Here's our links.html file with the word Google as a link. Clicking on Google takes us to google.com. If it doesn't work, check your spelling. Clicking the back button takes us back to our file. Cool, huh? Now we're going to create a relative link. Imagine for a second if you asked someone sitting next to you where their television was and they said, "On Earth, in America, in Washington, D.C., in my house on 444 Wilson Street over there." This wouldn't be very practical unless you were a mailman. This is the equivalent of an absolute address. But since you and your friend are both in the same place, just saying, "It's over there" would do. This is the equivalent of a relative address. We're going to use a relative link to link from one of our files to the other. This is the structure of our HTML folder. This directory of ours has several files that we've created already. If I wanted to put a relative link on my links.html file to the blocks.html file, all I would have to do is say, blocks.html is over there, so to speak. There's no need to make it any more complicated than that by adding some absolute path. So let's code a relative link in our links.html file to our blocks.html file now. Back in Notepad, click after the ending A tag, type a break tag, and then hit enter. Type the word blocks, Then type the opening and closing A tags around that. Click after the A of the opening A tag, hit the space bar and type href equals quote blocks.html end of quote. Save this newer version, go back to your second browser, hit the refresh button and click on the new blocks link. When you're done, come back and hit play again. Hit pause now and complete the steps. Okay, after reloading the page you can see you've created a relative link to your other file on your computer. Click on it and it should work. Now I know what you may be saying. I'm working locally, so won't relative links mess up when I put everything up on my server live? The answer is no, and here's why. We have an HTML folder on our computer with our files in it. As long as we keep the files together in the same directory when we upload them to our web server, their relative links won't break. This is all I want to cover with links for now. Just know this. Usually when people code their web pages, they use relative links to link between their pages. To link to other outside websites, they use absolute links. Okay, let's move on to the last inline tag, the image tag. To place an image on your pages, you'll need to create them first. We're not going to create graphics though until a later series on graphical development, so for now we'll have to use one I've already created. I've placed a small, square, orange-colored graphic under this video. We're going to save it down to our computers and use it in our files. You really don't want to put your graphics in the same place as your HTML files though, so we're going to first create a directory, then save the graphics into it. Go to your desktop screen and double-click on the HTML folder. Right-click on a blank area inside, scroll down to New, then scroll over and up to Folder and click. Type Graphics, then hit Enter. We now have a folder to put our graphics into. When you're done, come back and hit play again. Hit pause now and complete the steps. So now we have our folder. All we have to do now is locate the graphic underneath the video that looks like this and right-click on it, click on Save Picture As, click on the drop-down arrow and choose Desktop, then double-click on our HTML folder, then double-click on our graphics folder. We are now in the right place to save our graphic. Lastly, click on Save and we are done. When you're done doing this, come back and hit play again. Hit pause now and complete the steps. Now we can finally code our image tag. The image tag is a self-closing tag. It has no ending tag, but it requires a blank space and a / at the end. The attribute we use to display graphics is the src or source attribute. The value of the attribute is the path and the name of the file. In our instance, the relative path to the graphic is graphics / box.gif. If we just put the name of the file, the browser would look in the HTML folder and not find it and give you an error message. Telling it the right path makes it happy and you will see the graphic in your browser. In Notepad, let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone by coding the graphic and making it a hyperlink at the same time. Highlight the word blocks and replace it with our image tag. Save your file, go back to the second browser and reload the page. You should see the graphic, and if you click on it you should see that it is a hyperlink as well. When you are done, come back and hit play again. Hit pause now and complete the steps. Look at that, there's our graphic, and if we click on it you can see that it's a hyperlink too. Whew, that was a lot to cover. I hope you had fun and learned something. In the next episode we'll cover one important block tag that helps us lay out tabular data, the table tag. But that's next time on Tubetorial.